this. Manga, animator, anything, alright, let's do this. Weekly is the basis, worst generation. Cooking up a feast while he's turning through the pages. Theories that he's making, from shonen to seinen. Blocked in, analyzing, using observation. Yeah, observation. Rambling addiction.
Hello, Straw Hat Lucas here, Captain of the Eternal Dawn, and welcome back to another episode of Rambling Addiction, the show where I talk and you listen. Today we're going to be taking a trip to the flood-proof, island-sized, horror-themed ship known as Thriller Bark to do some theory crafting.
In this dark realm, one of ghosts and ghouls, this place we call Thriller Bark.
I won't lie, guys, I reread all of Thriller Bark before I started doing this video. And boy, did I find some very, very interesting things. And now, actually, if I'm being honest, I could say I think that Thriller Bark, like Skypiea, will become one of the most prevalent arcs for foreshadowing of future events.
What did he say?
Before we get into me trying my best to theorycraft, I would like to take a minute to talk about why I enjoy Thriller Bark as an arc in the story of One Piece. It's been pretty apparent to me that a lot of people don't mess with Thriller Bark on the level that I myself mess with it. I did a series when I first started doing content creation over on TikTok, which go follow me on TikTok. I just popped some banger videos over there. But yes, when I first started doing content creation, one of my first series I ever did was ranking all of the One Piece arcs. And at the time, I got a lot of heat because I put Thriller Bark at number 11 above Whole Cake and a bunch of other really, really good arcs. But it's because I enjoyed that arc more than those other arcs. And the reason is pretty simple. One, it introduces Brook. Brook is one of the most integral members of the Straw Hats. From the beginning of the story, all Luffy wanted was a musician, and we finally got it in this amazing, amazing arc. Number two, I love the gothic theme of it. It reminds me of walking into a Hot Topic in 2005, but in a good way, if that makes sense. Not only that, but I see a lot of people hating on Gecko Moria, which I get, like, his laugh is obnoxious at times, but it's also hilarious. But when it comes to Gecko Moria, not only is he a force to be reckoned with, like, the man stormed Kaido's front gates. Like, let's be real. He's not someone to just laugh at, and he not only was a Shichibukai, he was like one of the strongest of them. And anyone who says he wasn't, look at the Kagi Kagi no Mi, or Shadow Fruit. The amount of damage you could do alone just by stealing someone's shadow in the middle of broad daylight is insane. Not only that, but you can create this whole unliving army, as we saw with Dr. Hogg back in his research and what he did for Gecko Moria, which I know that wasn't Moria alone, but all you really need is a body, right? I said that with a little bit too much enthusiasm. But nonetheless, the Shadow Fruit is top tier in my book. One of the best Paramecia type devil fruits in the entire series. So yeah, I think overall Thriller Bark as an arc is just amazing. It has got the vibes, the humor is there. It's, I don't want to say scary, but like spooky when it needs to be. Like, there is this feeling of horror, especially if you read the manga opposed to watching the anime, because the anime Thriller Bark kind of goes way too goofy with it, if I'm being honest, which I know is funny coming from One Piece, but at the same time, they went a little too goofy in the anime. Okay, enough of me glazing Thriller Bark. Let's get to the reason I'm here and why you are here. It's time to theory craft. Let me put on my theory crafting hat. Did you think it was going to be a different hat? Yeah, I won't lie. The reason I don't wear that in videos very often is because it's very itchy. It's made out of a very cheap hat. But I digress. Let us begin. The first theory I want to talk about is one that has been discussed in the community numerous times, but I think I found a little bit more to it that could actually weigh credence to another theory, and that is the Zombies of the Rocks Pirates. Now let's get the named ones out of the way. We have Captain John, who we know for sure is a Rocks pirate. And then we have the small man up front in the silver armor with the silver axe, who we all believe to be Silver Axe, even though we didn't really see him in that God Valley spread of the Rocks pirates. So let's get to some of the ones that are unnamed or speculated to be Rocks pirates, right? First up, we have the man in the giant gold armor. Of course, I'm gonna throw a picture up over here, but a lot of people speculated for a long time that this was Wang Xi, but as we learned recently, Wang Xi was taken out on Hachinosu recently by Blackbeard. Now, we don't know if he was, like, or if he was just usurped, but nonetheless, he was the ruler of Hachinosu up until the current timeline of the manga. So that rules him out. He's an unnamed member of the Rocks Pirates. But let's take a look over here at the man with the claws. This is another Rocks Pirate member. I will throw up the side-by-side of him at God Valley and him now on Thriller Bark. Even more so, the man behind him to the right bears a slight similarity to the fishman that we saw within the Rocks Pirates as well. Next up, we have this 4-armed sharpshooter zombie. It seems that a lot of the members of Zebek's crew who perished at God Valley ended up on Thriller Bark. So why would they do that? Well, it's because God Valley is Thriller Bark.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Now, hold on. I'm only throwing this out there momentarily before I get to the really juicy stuff because it's the one I have yet to find a lot of evidence for. That said, we do have this one panel in God Valley of one of the celestial dragons in like a castle area with all the devil fruit chests, or what we assume are devil fruits. They were the prizes of the hunting game. Now, I've not found a one-to-one match to this area in Thriller Bark, but that said, a lot of the architecture looks very similar. I'm gonna throw up on screen how many screenshots I got that looked slightly even similar to this area in God Valley. I truly think that whenever the destruction of God Valley happened, a piece with the castle of God Valley still on it broke off and became Thriller Bark later as Moria converted it into a floating island. It's also stated that Thriller Bark is specifically from the West Blue, which we know God Valley is from. So yeah, it's definitely something to think about. Like I said, I really wanted to come on here this episode and prove that Thriller Bark was God Valley, but I sadly could not find enough matches between the architecture to concretely say. That said, I believe at about 80%, 85%, I would even dare say 90% that God Valley is Thriller Bark, or a piece of it at least. But let's get back to the juicy juice, you know, that Spice Malone.
Spice. He knows about the spice.
As I've stated, numerous members of the Rocks Pirates have shown up on Thriller Bark. A lot of people has pointed that out. So why would I make a whole video if I didn't have something new to show you? Well, I do. For the longest time, I've been of the belief that Rocks was also a zombie on Thriller Bark. Most importantly, he was zombie number 256, which if you break down those numbers into Japanese, it'd be Ni Go Mu. So like Ni as in Nika and Gomu as in Gomu 56, Luffy's number. Very peculiar. But not only that, I want you guys to take a good look at the Rocks zombie. His character is named Jack in the Box. Now, why do I believe that this is the Rocks zombie? That's a little harder to explain, but allow me to elaborate, please. Let's go back to the arc before Thriller Bark. More specifically, the first chapter that we ever got Garp as a full-fledged character. You see, in chapter 431 at the end, we got the teaser of Garp coming in and attacking Luffy, and Luffy being like, "Oh, Grandpa, that hurt," and all the Straw Hats being like, "Did this man just say Grandpa?" And then happens chapter 432, the very first time we get a full story of Garp, where he is a character actually in the manga. But something about this chapter struck me as odd. You see, what struck me as odd is the title, because in most cases a One Piece chapter, right, is named after something that is thematically presented, said, or seen in the chapter. I just had an ant crawling on my hand. So yes, chapter title usually reflects in the chapter, but it is not the case for this chapter. And this chapter's title is Jack in the Box. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why am I collating this chapter with this Jack in the Box zombie being Rocks? Well, at first I didn't. I'm gonna be honest, it just caught me as weird. But then I realized this is the chapter where we find out Garp is the hero of the Marines. And he's only the hero of the Marines because of what he did to Rocks at God Valley. And it's very clear that Oda was planning God Valley already, because not even a handful of chapters later, we get that Jack in the Box. And not only that, but a few chapters after that, we get those zombies of the Rocks Pirates. Now, you can call that a coincidence all you want, but let me take it a step further and into tinfoil hat territory. I think Rocks being the Jack in the Box also lends credence to the fact that Buggy is Rocks D. Zebek's son.
Hold up.
Now, I know you're thinking, oh my god, this guy is not spitting at all. What is going on? But I'm about to, baby. So not only does this Jack in the Box creature have the blue hair and red nose, something we've only seen from Buggy in the series, and do not say brulee, that is periwinkle hair with a like orangish nose. So yes, only 2 characters we've seen with blue hair and a red nose in the entire series. But this is where it gets a little spicy. If you take just a little bit of a speculative view, right? Say Rox falls at God Valley. His son is left there. The treasure of Hachinosu is left there. The world government, whatever, agrees to let the child live, but it has to bear the mark of its father. And its father was a clown. So what do? They use a devil fruit or something like that and make Buggy's nose red. Like I said, to mark him and shame him for the rest of his life as Zabek's son and for his foolish actions by attacking God Valley and the Celestial Dragons. A symbolism of the world government's control over the situation. And then what would be more fitting for the father of a clown than to be a jack-in-the-box? And it makes me wonder that if Sengoku finding out that Buggy was the other apprentice on Roger's ship is the reason that Buggy started to fail upward in the intense progression that we saw. Not only would he notice, oh, that's the other cabin boy from Roger's ship, but he would also notice that's Rox D. Zabek's son, marked as a clown for his whole life. It could also explain subconsciously why Buggy is so ashamed of his nose. Maybe he knows somewhere deep in his mind and his heart that that was a way to ridicule his father and not him. So I came here to spit about Thriller Bark and I ended up on a tangent about Buggy, but that's on brand for Rambling Addiction. That said though, the whole reason I went down this path is because how spicy Thriller Bark is, and I think the theory community at large really needs to start taking a better look at that arc. As my close friend vexyz the Lurking Legend always says, everything goes back to Thriller Bark, and Thriller Bark is making a comeback in the story more than ever right now, as we saw it in Egghead at Hachinosu, and then it was gone by time Garp showed up. So we have to believe from that Kube did help Moria and Perona escape, so the question is, where will they get next? Well, if we think we're going to get, you know, more God Valley reveals on Elbaf, maybe it'll show up at Elbaf. Maybe Moria will go to Cross Guild and Dofi will join later as well. And you know, this panel will become relevant and one of the greatest pieces of foreshadowing in all of One Piece. I just think with the architecture, how many Rox zombies are on there, Thriller Bark's gotta be it, right? Like Thriller Bark's gotta be part of God Valley. And maybe the other part was Marineford. If you have never done it, go put Thriller Bark inside the ring that Whitebeard showed up at in Marineford. They fit perfectly together. Shout out Kube of the Red Sea, because he's the one that's been pushing that agenda to me forever. I've been pushing Thriller Bark as God Valley, and he's been pushing Marineford as God Valley, and then one day I was just like, screw it, I'm gonna edit these images together, and I did it, and there might be something there. And I know that I said a lot of things that other theorists have said in this video, but that's because when a lot of people have a similar thought, there's more credibility to it being correct, especially in a story like One Piece. If 100 of us are like, hey, those are the Rox pirates and those other ones are also Rox pirates, more than likely those are going to be Rox pirates. Yeah, Thriller Bark sent me on a spiral when it comes to God Valley. I'm going to do another reread of the arc and see what else I can find and maybe make another part of this video. And I may make a full theory video going into deeper details because I got him of Buggy being Zabek's son. But I think the most prevalent answer is right there in front of our faces. The fact that what goes into a jack-in-the-box? A clown. And yes, I know that is simple, but a lot of the time with One Piece, the answers are simple, and it's us, the theorists and the fans who discuss it, who make it overcomplicated. Hey guys, disheveled editor Lucas here. Before I give my closing thoughts, I found one more little bit of spice from Thriller Bark. Recently, we had this whole thing on Egghead with Kuma and Dr. Vegapunk, where Dr. Vegapunk talked about the weight of the soul and how Kuma lost that weight when he passed. We then saw that Kuma was still able to function out of his own volition and will, even though he was technically dead. Well, I think the answer to that is in Thriller Bark. On this panel I'm going to throw up on stream, you can see that Robin seems to imply that Sindri's body is acting of its own will. Do you think this is what's going on with Kuma and how he protected Body? Let me know in the comments below. In closing, I really do think that the community needs to take a better look at Thriller Bark and maybe start thinking about it in the same context that they were thinking about Skypiea once Nika came about. That was about the time that I first jumped into the community, and I can remember so many people going back and going through Skypiea and being like, this connects to this connects to that, this connects to this connects to that, and it's a lot of imagery and stuff that we're seeing in the story presently. So I think we do need to just take a little bit of a closer look at Thriller Bark and see what it has to offer thematically for the rest of the story of One Piece. I truly believe, like I've said 100 times already in this video, that God Valley is just Thriller Bark, and that we'll see that confirmed sooner rather than later. And if I'm wrong, come back to this video, comment, and tell me I'm wrong. I'm not afraid to take some heat. But yes, thank you for watching this far into the video. If you want a chance at winning the coolest shout out ever on Rambling Addiction, Comment Buggy is Rox's son in the comments below. I've been Straw Hat Lucas, Captain of the Eternal Dawn. I know this one was a little bit less focused than the ones I've been doing lately, but with One Piece, that's how I be, guys. That's why I made Rambling Addiction, because when it comes to One Piece, I will just go on and on and on in all kinds of different directions. But yeah, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, ring the bell icon, do all of those wonderful, wonderful things. But more importantly than anything else in the world, have a wonderful, wonderful night.